preview and predictions for Southern Sports Gumbo. We're going to get things started off with our team, player, and coach of the week. Then we're going to talk non-SEC football. We're going to wrap up with SEC games, and then we'll talk a little bit of coaching news, potential hires, potential changes coming up. So I'll get things started with my team, player, and coach of the week. Team of the week, I'm going with the Virginia Tech Hokies. Hired James Franklin over the weekend, Sunday or Monday. So shout out to them. I think that was the best possible candidate for them. He goes into an ACC that has a ton of transparency right now. And if he can instill the right culture into Virginia Tech, I think they're going to be a team that can win this league in the future. So now to my player and coach of the week. Coach of the week's going to be Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri. He's playing with Matt Zollers QB3 for them. And, they got a win in convincing fashion over the Mississippi State Bulldogs to the tune of 49-27. Big win in conference. Mississippi State's looked good this year at times. So shout out to Eli Drinkwitz with that big win over Mississippi State. And then for player of the week, what I'm considering a travesty in the SEC, Marvin Burks, safety for Missouri, finishes with 11 tackles and a pick six and gets snubbed from SEC Player of the Week honors. Well, here at Southern Sports Gumbo, we've got your back, Marvin. That's my Player of the Week. 45-yard pick six. Led the team in tackles, did everything you're supposed to move to Player of the Week status in the SEC, but got the snub. Once again, like so many great players have this year. So, Kevin, over to you for your coach player team.
Yeah, so team of the week, I've got to go Oklahoma. You go on the road and win in two tough places back-to-back at Tennessee and Alabama, then you deserve credit for what you've done. And I really like, from a team standpoint, they really understand the strengths of their team and playing to their defense and get across midfield. Their kicker is going to get points on the board, 4 50-yard field goals in the last two games. So I'll lead that right into the coach of the week, Brent Venables. When they played Texas, John Mateer was 80% of their offense. Since then, they've developed a little bit of a running game to balance with their defense, played field position, and again got points. Probably the toughest schedule in the SEC when you look at the teams they played, if not the toughest. There's not many in front of them, and he is in a position to potentially get to 10-2. He's 8-2 now, and no, I don't think many people would have given them the chance when they basically went into after the first week in October. They had 2 losses to be sitting here mid-November with still 2 losses. So those would be my team and coach of the week. A player of the week, I'm going to go to North Texas for their freshman running back, Caleb Hawkins. He had 120 yards rushing, but he had 5 touchdowns in their victory this past week. He continues to average more than 100 yards a game. He's also a receiving threat out of the backfield. I think he's right around 20 touchdowns now. So definitely going to be a freshman All-American. So Caleb Hawkins would be my player of the week. Sweets, what about you?
Well, I'm going to go with the Georgia Triumvirate. My team of the week is the Georgia Bulldogs. They're 9-1 now, had a huge game against Texas, basically a playoff elimination game Saturday night in Athens. And Georgia Blue Doors on to beat them 35-10. Just an all-round beatdown from physicality to the coaching. Everything about it was all Georgia. The coach is Kirby Smartless, and that onside kick was – that was the nail in the coffin. When he lined up, as soon as the kid kicked it, I'm sitting with my wife. She goes, "What's he doing?" And I said, "He just won the ball game when that kid caught the ball, and that if they could advance onside kicks, that kid would still be running. That's how awesome that play was. And lastly, my player of the week is Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar had 4 touchdown passes, just under 230 yards in the air. He also had a touchdown run, so he accounted for all 5 of Georgia's touchdowns against Texas the other night. Just a dominant effort by the Bulldogs. They're sitting at 9-1, and should be a shoe-in for the playoffs now. Now it's more just playing for seeding. Still, they've got Charlotte this week, but they've got a tough game next week against Georgia Tech. And that one could be a play-in game as well, because the winner of that game will probably be in for sure, and the loser could be on the outside looking in. So that's my team player and coach of the week. Where are we going for out of conference games, DMAC?
Cool. One more player I want to recognize before we finish up. Sweet son Larry wrapped up his college season at Grinnell as a freshman this year. They had their awards banquet. I'll let you take it in a second, Sweets. But Larry went in as a freshman, earned playing time in camp, became a starter before the season started, and had an awesome honor this week. So, Sweets, tell us about that for a second.
He had a lot of fun his first few months up in Grinnell, Iowa, and he is nicknamed the CEO of the corn. If you've ever been through Iowa, there is nothing but corn. There's a little soy, but mostly corn. And he's had a great experience up there with his teammates, coaches. They finished 2-8, so it wasn't the best season record-wise, but they've gotten better each week. 5 of their games were decided by 10 points or less. The 5 of their losses were decided by 10 points or less. So these kids are going to grow together as a team, learn a lot. He was the freshman player of the year for them offensively, which is a really cool honor. And he's just looking forward to getting better with his teammates and growing. DMAC, thanks for shouting him out. I'm sure he's watching right now. He probably should be doing his homework, but what are you going to do? But no, we're excited for Grinnell and what they've got going in the future, and good stuff. We'll talk Grinnell basketball too when the season starts, because that's a lot of fun as well. So. Now, where are we going for out of conference?
Yeah, we're going to get things started in the Mountain West with Hawaii and UNLV this week. Friday night game, 10:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Central. These are 2 teams that, have no shot at the playoff, but they're still playing for something. UNLV's 8-2, Hawaii is 7-3. This game opened up at a 3.5-point line, down to 2.5 in the favor of the Rebels in this one. Couple facts about UNLV: 460 yards a game, 201 on the ground. They're averaging 36.6 points a game. But their defense is putting up about the same numbers: 450 yards given up, 185 on the ground, 31 points per game. And you've got a Hawaii defense or a Hawaii offense that's looked pretty good: 408 yards a game, 302 passing. They're averaging 31 points a game. So this is a fun game for me because I followed UNLV a lot this year. When you talk turnover margin, UNLV is a top 20 team and +7. Hawaii is ranked 101st with -4. So UNLV has a huge advantage in that category. A few of the guys that I want to talk about for UNLV: Jaden Thomas, their running backs, got 780 yards. So he's inching closer to 1,000-yard season. Jaden Bradley's got 712 yards receiving. And then, when you talk Hawaii, Micah Alejo, I'm pretty sure I butchered his last name, but he's thrown for 2,400 yards, 18 touchdowns. So they've got some things working on their side too. But I do think that the turnover margin is going to be too much for Hawaii in this game. UNLV's great at forcing turnovers, especially when they're at home like they are this week. So I'm going to take UNLV. I'm going to go 38 20 27, 11-point win for UNLV to move to 9-2 on the season. Kevin, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, look, I think UNLV is the better team, better offense, and just better overall talent. So I'm going to go UNLV, even though Hawaii's, they've improved over the year, and definitely better than they were one of the worst teams in college football last year. So, um, but give me UNLV 34-27 over Hawaii. Sweets, what about you?
I'm going to take UNLV 41-27 here. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. This isn't the Timmy Chang, Colt Brennan Hawaii teams that used to score in bunches when June Jones was running the chuck and duck out there a couple decades ago. This is a little bit different now. And Mullen still got a good thing going out there in Las Vegas. So I like the Rebels. I like the Rebels by a couple TDs here. Who do we go to next, Kev?
So I think we're looking at Louisville and SMU next.
That's right.
This is a big game for SMU. They're playing at home in Gerald Ford Stadium in Dallas, and that's on campus for them. SMU sitting at one conference loss, and their goal obviously is to get back in that ACC championship. Louisville suffered their second loss last week, so they're kind of slid back into that spoiler role. When you look at two teams, they're very similar in offense. Louisville averages right at 400 yards a game. SMU 406. Defense, Louisville's a little better than SMU. SMU defensively is definitely bend and don't break. They give up a lot of yards, but they only give up 20 points a game, where Louisville gives up 21 points a game. The keys defensively for SMU is they're really good in the red zone. Second best defense in the red zone defense, allowing opponents to only score 65% of the time. And then in probably the most important stat we've all agreed on most of the year, SMU is plus 11 in turnovers. So that really has been the key to their play over the last 6-8 weeks. They actually started the season off, and Kevin Jennings had some interceptions early in the first few games. He's limited that down, and again they're plus 11 in the turnover margin, and that's they've won several games in a row here due to that. When you look at the one stat that favors Louisville would be third downs. Their defense has only given up 31% on third down, and SMU's offense is one of the worst on third down at getting 37% of those. 2.5-point spread. Game starts at noon. It's going to be a close game. I look at it and I think Kevin Jennings, a starting quarterback for SMU, Miller Moss, the starting quarterback for Louisville. I think as a playmaker, that's a big advantage to Jennings. And then also I want to mention Tamarian Harden. SMU's running back has got over 600 yards. He's been a big addition to their running game since about the 4th week of the season. I think with Jennings and that turnover margin, SMU is going to win a close game. 27-24, I'm going to go with SMU in this game, and they're going to keep their ACC playoff hopes alive. Sweets, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. Both teams are sitting at 7-3. SMU's 5-1 in conference. Louisville's 4-3 in conference. I think it's a very even matchup. I like SMU being at home, and you're right. I think Jennings is certainly a much more athletic quarterback than Moss is, a much better playmaker. That being said, though, I still like Jeff Brom, what he's doing there. I still like a little coaching advantage on Louisville's side. I'm going to go ahead and take Louisville 31-28. A late field goal wins it for them, and they really upset the Mustangs in Dallas. What are your thoughts on this one, D-Mac?
Yeah, two of my favorite non-SEC coaches in the country. You've got Jeff Brom at Louisville and Rhett Lashley at SMU. So this is going to be a really well-coached game by both teams, I think. But if I kind of lean the quarterback room, Miller Moss was a guy I liked a lot when he was at USC. He's had a little bit of a down year, in my opinion, 7 interceptions to 11 touchdowns on the year. And then you've got Kevin Jennings over there, nearly 3,000 yards passing, 21 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I'm pretty sure he had like 6 interceptions after week 3 this season. So he's really cleaned that side of it up. With SMU being top 10 in the country at plus 11 in the turnover margin, I've got to roll with the Mustangs in this one. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I'm going to go 34-28. SMU gets the win. So that brings us over to you, Sweets, for the South Florida UAB game.
Yeah, South Florida's traveling to Birmingham to face UAB this weekend. South Florida 7-3, coming off a loss to Navy last week. I believe they lost 41-38 was the score, I want to say. A little bit of an upset there. South Florida was still trying to keep their playoff hopes alive as a Group of 5 team. But Navy, Navy held serve and went ahead and got a big win against them. That being said, they're playing UAB this week. They're a 21.5-point favorite, and they're going to take out their frustrations on UAB, I believe. I'm going to take South Florida 49, UAB 14. South Florida is led by Byron Brown. He leads the team in. He's their quarterback. He's got over 2,500 yards passing on the season with 21 TDs through the air, 7 picks. He's also got 11 touchdowns on the ground with 841 rushing yards as well. So he leads the team in rushing as well. Hell of a player. Coffrey Singleton's their leading receiver. He's got 659 yards on the year to go with 6 touchdowns. For UAB, they're led by Jalen Kitna of Florida Trouble fame a few years back. John Kitna's son. He's their quarterback, and he's thrown for just over 2,000 yards and 11 TDs on the season. But it's going to be a rough go for them on Saturday. They're going to get their doors blown off. What do you think about this one, D-Mac?
Yeah, I'm with you. I was a fan of UAB early in the season when they upset Memphis at home. I thought they may be able to do the same thing a couple weeks ago when they hosted North Texas, and that was not how that game went at all. So I love South Florida in this one. I'm gonna go 38-17. 21-point game. I don't know if they cover the 21.5, but I think they win pretty easily. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I've liked South Florida all year, and they lost a tough game last week on the road at Navy. When you look at the games they've lost, two conference road games that basically a field goal apiece, and that's going to knock them out of the playoffs. But I still think they're a good team. And I like Byron Brown and what he does, and I like their defense as a whole. I'm going to go South Florida in this one, 38-17.
So that brings us to Oregon USC. Kevin, who do you like in this one?
So spread in this one's interesting to me in that it's a 10.5-point spread to Oregon. Both these teams are 2 of your best offensive teams in the country. USC's 5th at 488 yards a game, and Oregon's 11th with 475 yards a game. And when you break it down, one of the things, this is not your typical Lincoln Riley offense. USC averages 190 yards rushing, and so they're a physical team, and that's what allowed them to win that Iowa game last week. When you flip it over to the defensive side, I think some of this has to do with competition, but obviously Oregon's good defensively. They give up 235 yards a game, which is 3rd in the country. Again, their strength of schedule has not been as good. USC gives up 344. I think if you balance those strength of schedule, because USC's played a tough schedule, those defenses would be more balanced. So again, that's another thing that is very different about USC this year under Lincoln Riley. They have a very good defense. They give up 21 points a game, and they play physical on both sides of the ball. Oregon's only given up 14 points a game, but again, you got to look at the strength of schedule. Both teams are great on third down. One's at 51% on third down conversions, the other's at 50. So 2 of your better ones there. Both teams have good quarterbacks. Jaden Maiava at USC and Dante Moore for Oregon have been good quarterbacks. So I think, again, I go back to that 10.5-point spread to grant the games at Oregon. I really think the game's going to be inside that. And it's really hard for me to really to hone in on what I think will be an advantage, other than the fact I do think it'll probably come down to a late turnover in this game. And I trust both quarterbacks. I'm going to say that. So, um, USC's won some tough games on the road. They won at Nebraska. They were at home last week, but they got down 21-7 and came back and won that game. Oregon won that game at Iowa in a rainstorm. Oregon's got to win this game, in my opinion, to be in the playoffs. And USC, if they win it, will be in the conversation to be in the playoffs. I think being at home, I'm going to go Oregon 31-27. But I really like USC to make this game competitive and possibly pull off the upset. D-Mac, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think Oregon covers the 10.5 points in this one. Both of these teams are really similar, in my opinion. Great quarterback play. Both run the ball extremely well. They're both top 20 in run offense. But I think the home field advantage is going to play into Oregon's favor. I'm going to go 31-28 in this one in a close game, but I think Dante Moore does just a little bit more than Jade Mavia to put them in position to win this game. What do you think, Sweets?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I like Oregon in a close game. Give me Oregon 27-21, and I think the biggest difference is going to be Oregon's pass defense. Oregon's pass defense is one of the better units in the country, and I think they're going to give Maivia fits, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game for them. Plus, being at Autzen Stadium, that's that crowd's going to be rocking because they know what's at stake for this game. If they lose, they're probably done. So this is a must-win for them. They're going to go out and do the job and get the win there. Where are we going next, D-Mac?
Yeah, that takes us to Syracuse at Notre Dame. This is a 35.5 point line in Notre Dame's favor. This game's a little bit of a house divided for my family up in New York. They're all Notre Dame fans and Syracuse fans. It's tough for me to pick a 35.5 point line in any football game. But what Notre Dame's doing well this year is, they're running for nearly 200 yards a game, 460 yards of total offense. Their defense is only allowing 18 points a game, less than 100 yards on the ground against them. When you look over at this Syracuse defense, they're giving up 32 points a game. Teams are running for 165 on them, passing for 270. They're giving up over 430 yards a game. Their best stat is that they give up 164 yards on the ground, and that's 95th in the nation. So this Syracuse team is not a very good football team. Syracuse is also minus 10 in the turnover margin, which puts them at 129th, as to where Notre Dame's 10th in the nation at plus 9. So Notre Dame's got a 19 turnover, plus 19 in the turnover margin in this game. CJ Carr's playing really well and effective, 2,500 yards through the air, 21 touchdowns. And Jeremiah Love, nearly 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. They're playing really good football. The last game Syracuse played back on November 8th against Miami. Ricky Collins, a local Baton Rouge boy, did not have his best game. He was 12 of 25, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions for 85 yards. Notre Dame's going to be way too much for Syracuse to handle. I'm going to pick them to cover this game too. I'm going to go 52-10. They get a 42-point win at home. Sweets, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, 35 and a half's a lot. I think Notre Dame is going to win. I think they'll cover too. Give me Notre Dame 49-7. Notre Dame's really got it going. They've, after those first 2 games, they've been playing really well. Jeremiah Love, like you said, almost 1,200 yards rushing. CJ Carr's fantastic year. Their defense is stepping up and improving every week. I just think that they're in playoff mode, and they're trying to do everything they can to get ready for the big one. So yeah, I think they bust Syracuse up this weekend. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, Syracuse, since their quarterback got hurt, it's not been a very good team. Give me Notre Dame 45-3 in this game. I do think they cover also. Look, I really like Freeman. He coaches his team up. They've been getting better all year. The defense was a question mark at the beginning, but it's strength. They held at this point. They held Pitt to 15 points last week at Pitt. Many people thought that game could be competitive, and Notre Dame won it by 22. So I like Notre Dame by a lot in this one.
Yeah, so that takes us to Duke UNC, a great basketball matchup. Unfortunately, this is football. Sweets, who do you like in this one?
Well, it should be a fun matchup. It doesn't mean it's going to be quality football, but it'll be fun. They hate each other, so there's that. It's Bill Belichick's trying to win to be bowl eligible, so we got that. What's his girlfriend's name? Jordan or Jenny or whatever. She'll be on the sidelines, so there's some entertainment. I think Duke wins the game, and I think Belichick ends up 4-7. He is not going to be bowl eligible this year. Quarterback Darian Mims has been fantastic for Duke this year. He's certainly earned his money. He's got just over 3,000 passing yards on the year with 25 TDs through the air. Where you go to Gio Lopez on the other side, he's got 1,400 yards on the year with 8 passing touchdowns. So that is kind of a microcosm of the difference between the two programs. So Duke's only 5-5, so they're only one game better than UNC, but it just feels a lot worse because of all the hype with Belichick and everything else. I think a lot more was expected of North Carolina. What are you going to do? I think Duke wins the game. I think Duke wins, I'll say 31-21. And I think the story at the end of the day is going to be Mintz. I think Mintz is going to have a huge game against UNC, and he's earning that money. What do you think of this one, Kev?
Yeah, I like your comparison there with Mensa and Lopez, and to me, that's the difference in the game. Carolina's defense has played better, though, so I will give Belichick and his son, who's the DC, credit there. They've came on over the last, 4 or 5 games. Started there when they took Virginia to overtime and couldn't pull that one out. Lost it by, pretty much a half a yard from a big upset there. So I think it'll be competitive, but I like Mensa much better to put points on the board. I think UNC, they've struggled scoring. I think they're going to continue to struggle scoring. So give me Duke 23-17 over Carolina. D-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would much rather be watching these two schools play basketball this weekend. Unfortunately, we're stuck watching them play football. North Carolina, they definitely haven't lived up to what people expected from them, but they had 75 new players, 73 new players join the program. So, that was probably expected. Yeah, I think Darian Mintz is definitely the big difference maker in this game. Over 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's been a rock star this year. I think Duke wins this game pretty easily. I'm gonna go 31-13, big win for Duke here. So that brings us to a big battle in the ACC. You've got Pitt and Georgia Tech. Get us started on this one, Kevin.
Yeah, so Georgia Tech's been a team I've liked all year, and Pitt came on until that loss last week at Notre Dame. So this is a big game. Both teams are in contention to be in that ACC championship. To me, you've got these two teams and SMU battling out to get into that ACC championship game. If Tech wins this game, they're in. And it's a home game in Atlanta. So looking at Tech, they're number 1 in the nation on offense. Haynes King leads the offense. Their 496 yards of offense is number 1 in the country. They average 36 points a game. They are in the top 10 in third down conversion with 51%. So they're going to put points on the board. Pitt's defense is a quality defense. They only give up 325 yards a game, but the way Tech is balanced on offense, running the ball and passing, I expect Tech to move it on Pittsburgh. Pitt is really good in the rush defense. They only give up 90 yards a game. But Tech's rushing offense it's diversified. You have King and the running back both that can get yards. The problem with Tech, and this has evolved over the last month, is their defense is just sunk, and they're average. They're giving up 409 yards on defense now, and that's 106 in the country. If you look at their points, they're only giving up 24 points on average, but that's kind of weighted to the beginning of the season. When you look over the last month, they're giving up over 30 points a game, and so that to me is the question mark for them. Can their defense get this thing back in play? Mason Heinsohn is the freshman quarterback for Pittsburgh. Again, played really well this year. Struggled last week with under 50% completion against Notre Dame. And so, but I, again, when I get right down to it, you talk about those things. I like Georgia Tech, and I like them to win this game simply because it's at home. And I just think Pitt going on the road, I think Tech and Brent Key will have this team ready. These two coaches are kind of mirror images too. Let me say that. Nardozzi's an old school defensive guy that is about physical football, and then Brent Key's an offensive line guy, and he's about physical football. So, these two teams are going to go at each other physically. But I do like Georgia Tech to win this game. I think their offense. I think the offense will pull them through in this. I think it'll be 37-30. I just like the advantage that they have on offense over Pitt. D-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Haynes King's been phenomenal this year, playing at a really high level. He'll finish with 1,000 yards on the ground and probably 25 to 2,800 yards in the pass game. So he's going to have nearly a 4,000 yard season. Doesn't turn the ball over that much. Yeah, I think both of these teams play tough football, but I'm going to roll with Georgia Tech at home, 27-24 to get the win. Who do you like in this one, Sweets?
I like Tech 31-21. I think the biggest reason for me is Pittsburgh's red zone defense. They're 128th in the country, allowing scores over 92% of the time once the team gets into the red zone. Georgia Tech moves the ball well, especially from 20 to 20. Also, they're 124th in the nation in penalties as well. And when you're on the road in a tight game, those things come back to ditch. Go ahead and give me Tech 31-21 in this one. Who's that take us to next, D-Mac?
Yeah, that takes us to BYU and Cincinnati. This is BYU controls their own destiny to get into the Big 12 championship. Cincinnati needs a little help still. A win here for Cincinnati would be move in the right direction. They are playing this game in Ohio. Going to be about 42 degrees at kickoff. And BYU is a 2.5-point favorite. Yeah, I gave Missouri, or actually I gave Virginia Tech my team of the week this week. But I was really impressed with how BYU came out after a loss 2 weeks ago and throttled TCU this week. I was a little worried they may be down, may not come out looking well, but they got punched in the mouth 2 weeks ago, stepped up and dominated this past week. And it's on the back of their Bachmeier freshman quarterback, 2,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. LJ Martin, their running backs at 912 yards on this season. I think this is a game where he pushes over that 1,000 yard mark. And then you look at the turnover margin. BYU's a top 12 team in the nation at +8. Cincinnati 67th at even. Both of these teams are really good offensively, both running for about 195 yards a game each, both over 415 yards of total offense, and both are pretty good on scoring defense. BYU's given up 18 points a game. Cincinnati's given up 22. So I think BYU, though, is going to be too much for Cincinnati to contain here. I think they win this game 34-24. BYU gets a huge win on the road. Kevin, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, so if you would have asked me about this game 2 weeks ago, I think I would have taken Cincinnati. But after BYU, the way they played coming off that loss to Tech at home against TCU, I like BYU. Cincinnati's had a good year. You got to give them credit. They were not expected to do much, and so Satterwhite's done a good job there. But man, Kalani Sitake he's just a good football coach. The wins he's had against Utah, they play good defense. They do not make mistakes. And I think in a game like this where you got two teams that are very competitive, I just like BYU's competitive nature. I'll just put it at that. I think it'll be a close game being at Cincinnati. And again, Cincinnati will be very motivated for this game. But BYU is going to keep their playoff hopes alive and win the game 27-20 in a tight game. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
I'm on the same path as you, Kev. I got BYU 27-17, and I think BYU's defense is gonna be the story of the day. I think they're going to be able to hold Cincinnati and keep them from scoring a lot of points. That'll be the difference in the game. And they still have something to play for. At 9-1, they still have a shot to make it into the playoffs. So this is a huge game for them. Every game is a huge game for them. This one, is up next, and it's a big game for them. I think they go into Cincinnati and do the job there. What are your thoughts on it, D-Mac?
Yeah, so
you already spoke on it. You're good.
Yeah,
You're good.
Yeah. No, let's move over to Miami and Virginia Tech. Sweets, I know this is your game, so get us started on this one.
Yes, sir. Miami's a 17.5-point favorite against the Virginia Tech Hokies, now led by James Franklin as DMAC's team of the week for this week. So they're coming into the game at 3-7 though, and playing an 8-2 Hurricane team that's very motivated to win and win big. I don't, at 8-2, they're they may be on the outside looking in for the playoffs, even if they run the table for the rest of the season. That being said, they do have a lot to play for because of that opportunity, and I think that led by Carson Beck, they're going to go ahead and handle Virginia Tech. Give me Miami 42-17. The key to me is going to be 42-7. Let me go back 42-7. Virginia Tech's not going to be able to score on that Miami defense. It's going to get ugly. I really like that defense a lot still. But Miami had a few rough weeks offensively where Beck just looked bad, and we talked about early in the year that Chris Ball always spits a game or two up that he shouldn't. He's done that twice so far this year, but he won't this week. Give me Miami big. What do you think of this one, Kev?
Yeah, again, totally agree. I think Beck will play well. It's just going to be too much. Give me Miami 38, Virginia Tech 10. D-Mac, your thoughts?
When I was a little kid, I think I was 5 years old, I went to a LSU game at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Probably one of the most hostile environments I've ever been in. There's a new dawn at Virginia Tech. You've got James Franklin, who's going to be their coach moving forward. I think these Virginia Tech players use this as an audition to show that they deserve to be on the James Franklin team moving forward. Like you guys said, Mario Cristobal always loses some games he shouldn't. And I think he's going to lose another one and put the nail in the coffin of their playoff hopes.
I love it.
This would be the upset of the year. Go ahead.
I think Virginia Tech's just got a lot to show their new coach. I think Kyron Drones has a big game at quarterback and gets it done. I think Carson Beck turns the ball over 4 times in this game, 1 fumble and 3 interceptions. So give me Virginia Tech to win a close one. I'm going to go 31-27. The Hokies get it done. and they're on the right track with their new coach here.
I know you're sprinkling a little on the money line for that one, aren't you?
I think I am. I think I got to take
Love it.
Virginia Tech money line.
I love it.
Now I will say if Miami's down 20 at half, I'm probably going to put a little money on Miami this week. So, yeah, so that wraps up our non-conference, non-SEC games of the week. So moving on to the SEC, we've got Ole Miss and Mississippi State who are on bye this week in preparation for the Egg Bowl. I've got a little college basketball on the TV here that you guys can't see. I got Alcorn State and LSU on. LSU's down 5 points to the 0-5 Alcorn State team right now. So
What is it, 7-2? Don't tell me it's like the end of the first half down 5.
no, you're 6 minutes in, but it's 19-14. So you're having some points scored in this game. But to get things rolling in the SEC, we have Samford and Texas A&M. So I'm pretty sure this game was scheduled a while back when Jimbo Fisher was still the head coach to play his alma mater, the Samford Bulldogs. Samford's sitting at 1-10 on the year. Texas A&M is 10-0. Marcel Reed keeps finding a way to win. A&M was down a lot of points at halftime, and they came back and won last week against South Carolina. I think this is going to be a really big first half for the Texas A&M offense. I would be surprised if you see Marcel Reed in the fourth quarter. He may not even play all of the third quarter. I don't even see a line on this game right now, but I'm going to take Texas A&M. I'm going to go 52-3, 49-point win at home. What do you guys think? Kevin.
I like A&M in a big game. So 3 weeks ago, I said I like Reed as a Heisman candidate, and I still like him a lot. He's probably second in that running right now, but I think if he wins on the road at Texas, I think he might jump up there, and especially SEC championship game. He was huge in that comeback. So I like Reed to run wild in this game. They probably get him out though midway in the third quarter, but give me A&M 45-7. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
54-0 A&M. Samford may not cross midfield. It's going to be that bad. And listen, Marcel Reed is having a hell of a year. And he's certainly in Heisman contention. I could see him playing later into the game to pad his stats a little bit. I could see him having 400 plus total yards by the middle of the third quarter. So it's going to be ugly, but Texas A&M has a lot to play for too. I mean, that would be wild if Reed or another big time starter got hurt, in the second half of a game that was meaningless. But I don't think that's going to happen. I just think Texas A&M, 54-0, and they just keep it rolling. Where does that take us to?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I wish they would play Marcel Reed and Casey Concepcion all 4 quarters. Let them both get a bunch of touchdowns. It's playoff time in fantasy football, so I'm all for it. But that takes us to the.
You may get you with Concepcion. He may stay out there for 4 quarters. I don't know that Reed will, but Concepcion may.
Yeah. Hey, just let him return punts all game. Let him return 3 to the house in the fourth quarter. But that takes us to the Missouri-Oklahoma game. Kevin, since the Sooners are your team, get us started on that one.
Oh, that's a setup. All right. So, again, 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks off the bye week. Oklahoma's won on the road at Tennessee and at Alabama. So, you think coming home, they're playing Missouri. Missouri's down to their third string quarterback, Matt Zollers, who's a freshman. So you think, okay, this should be a game Oklahoma wins and shouldn't be a challenge. Now you look a little deeper into the game. So Oklahoma's won. They've won getting turnovers in the last 2 games, and they've won kicking field goals. The Oklahoma offense has regressed since we've got into SEC play. 357 yards a game, 90th in total offense, time of possession 29 minutes a game. Those are things that are going to hurt them against this Missouri team. Missouri is also 10th in the nation in defense. Everybody talks about Oklahoma's defense. It's good, legit. They're 11th in total defense. Mizzou is 10th in total defense. Now, both of these teams, if you look at their non-conference schedule, Oklahoma did play Michigan, but that was early in Underwood's career there. Both these teams' non-conference schedule favors their stats. So, in my opinion, their stats are a little skewed on both things in this. That being said, Missouri is a competitive defense. They shut Vanderbilt and Pavia down. After Alabama scored early, the second half, they basically shut them down, held them to 1 touchdown. So I really think that this is going to be a close, low-scoring game is where I'm going at with this. Missouri averages 450 yards of offense, so they're good on offense, led by Ahmad Hardy, 1,350 yards rushing a game, or 1,350 on the year, coming off a game where he had over 300 yards rushing. And you know that they're going to pound him playing with Zollers on the road. They're going to give the ball to Hardy and Roberts in that rushing game, and they're going to try to lean on that in that time of possession. They'll struggle, running consistently, but I think they'll have some success. But I just see this as a low-scoring game, and Missouri's going to be in this. The question or the key to me is, can Missouri play without turnovers? Because I'm not sure that Oklahoma can win unless they win the turnover margin. They won the turnover margin against Alabama and Tennessee, and that allowed them to play ahead. And that Missouri is -2 in turnover margin, though. Same there, with Oklahoma. So, that part is really tight. I guess I'm going to go. Oklahoma's a 7.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with Oklahoma again strictly because they're field goal kicker. Tate Sindall's probably the best kicker in the country, in my opinion. He'll probably win the Lou Groza Award. I see him getting another 3 field goals in this game. Oklahoma winning it 19-13. But it's going to be a competitive game, and Missouri will have chances if they can capitalize. Sweet, what's your thoughts?
I'll start with I like Oklahoma 23-16. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game too. I think the teams will be able to move ball, but I think both field goal kickers will have days and be busy. Mizzou is definitely going to run the ball, try to shorten the game, and keep it, keep their offense on the field, keep Oklahoma's offense off the field, and and try to win that way. I just don't think that they have the horses to do it. And Oklahoma's been fantastic after those first 2 losses. There's no way I would have thought they would have got to this point still with 2 losses. So they've been fantastic. Mateer, I don't know if he's 100%, but he's doing well enough to win. I like Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma to win 23-16 here. Who do you got, D-Mac?
Yeah, I've got Oklahoma as well. I think they're a playoff team this year. I'm going to go 23-20. I think you're going to see a lot of field goals in this game, but Oklahoma does enough playing at home to get through this one. And then they've got a week 14 cupcake game, so they're good to go. Let me see who that takes us to now. That takes us to a big game in Athens, Georgia. You've got Charlotte traveling to Georgia. Sweets, get us going on this one.
Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't seen a line on the game. I'm sure there is one, but I didn't see it. Georgia's got to be favored by a ton. Charlotte's 1-9 coming into Athens, coming in strictly for a payday. This is going to be ugly from the start. This will be a get right game for Georgia. You're going to see a lot of kids who are redshirting play this week. Getting the freshmen a lot of snaps. I don't see Gunnar Stockton playing a ton in the second half here either. There will be no reason for him to. Georgia's ranked number 4 in the country. They're sitting there, playing for a bye in the playoff right now. Gunnar Stockton's been fantastic. The defense is getting better every week. Nate Frazier has 647 yards on the ground, leading the team in rushing. I just think it's really ugly this week. Give me Georgia 52, Charlotte 10. 52-10. Who you got here, D-Mac?
Yeah, so the line in this game is 43.5. I think
So they
Georgia
don't cover.
cover. I'm taking Georgia to cover though. I'm gonna go 55-3, 52-point win. Yeah, I think you're gonna see a couple redshirt seniors, some older guys who don't get to play that often, really make some headway in this game. So that's pretty much. I mean, Charlotte's terrible. So that's Kevin. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, so I think Georgia's going to win this one handily. I do think they probably, Kirby's not one to roll 50 on people much, but I do think they probably roll 50 in this game. I think they're going to, I think they're really focused on getting better each week, leading into the SEC championship, potential playing that game in the playoffs. Stockton, I think, is going to continue to throw the ball, and they mix in the run. I like what they're doing offensively, and they're mixing Noah Thomas in. I predict he's going to get more in this game as they continue to get him more involved in the offense. I think he'll, have to close to 100 yards receiving, a couple touchdowns. But give me Georgia 52-0 in this game.
Nice. So that brings us to another payday game. You've got the Eastern Illinois Panthers traveling to Tuscaloosa to play the Crimson Tide. Ty Simpson, has had a great season, 2,800 passing yards, 22 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. This is going to be a little bit of a get right game for Alabama after losing last week. Eastern Illinois is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th out of 9 in the OVC Big South. So they are not having a good season. So give me Alabama. There's not even a line on ESPN for this game. So let me go 59-0 shutout for the Crimson Tide. Sweets, what do you think?
Yeah. Alabama's going to take it out on Eastern Illinois this week. It's going to be ugly. And I don't think DeBoer will take his foot off the gas. I see Bama scoring in the 60s here. Give me Alabama. Let's go 6-7. Let's go 6-7 nothing. And Eastern Illinois will be able to lick their wounds. Yeah. There you go. 6-7. Eastern Illinois will lick their wounds as they fly on back to Illinois. Who do you think? Who do you got here, Kev? You got an upset here, Kev?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
62-3 Bama. Ty Simpson's going to throw for 450. They're going to want to get some more confidence back out of that offense. It's been in the 20s the last three games. They're going to open it up and score. The question is, will Ryan Williams catch the ball over the middle this week? That's my question in this game.
No.
I agree. I agree.
So that brings us to another payday game, or at least you would think it's a payday game. You've got Mercer at Auburn. I think, Kevin, get us started on this one.
Yeah, so Mercer is 9-1. To your point, it's a payday game, but Mercer's for their level of play, they're a good team, and they've had a good season. Beat Wolford, who's a good team, annually. But that being said, they're playing against an SEC team. Look, Auburn's going to win this game, but I do think Mercer they'll compete. Let me just say that. Jackson Arnold's going to play quarterback probably again this weekend, and I really like to see Deuce Knight get some time in this game for Auburn. And Auburn's good defensively, so even if you got a team that's from a lower level that might be competitive, the fact that you're playing against a good defense is probably not going to give them a lot of hope to get things much going. Give me Auburn in a fairly ugly game, 27-7 against Mercer. Their defense will dominate, and they'll do just enough offensive. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
The shades of Diego Pavia at New Mexico State coming into Auburn and leaving there with a paycheck and a victory. This is going to be my upset of the week. I'm going to go ahead and take Mercer. I'm going to take Mercer 23-21. And I think that they burned the stadium down after the game. They've tried that once before and failed, but go ahead and give me Mercer with the upset of the season. It wouldn't be that big an upset. I mean, it's not like it's not like they were beating like a power, like a ranked team. I mean, it's Auburn, but no, listen, Mercer's a decent program, and they've played well this year, and why not? Why not? Who do you got here, D-Mac?
Their quarterback's got 3,200 yards rushing or passing, but anyhow, go ahead, D-Mac.
Yeah, so this is another game that has no line on ESPN. Auburn has a 94.7% chance to win. Jackson Arnold's going to be the starting quarterback for Auburn. You got Braden Atkinson over there leading the Mercer Bears. Almost 3,300 yards, but 33 passing touchdowns on the season. He will be the best quarterback on the field for 4 quarters. Unfortunately, he is going up against a really good defense. I'm going to pick Auburn in this one. I think Jeremiah Cobb's going to have success on the ground. He's at a little over 900 yards on the season on the ground. I think he eclipses the 1,000-yard mark in this one. I'm going to go 35-17. Auburn wins by 18. In a game, realistically, they should win by 40, but I think Mercer does enough to hang around for a little bit, and hopefully we get to see Deuce Knight play while he's still in the Navy and Orange for a couple more games. I think he's transfer portal bound, and who knows? He may be in purple and gold next year. We don't know yet. So that brings us to finally another SEC versus SEC game. It is the Arkansas Razorbacks traveling to Austin to take on Texas. Who do you like in this one, Sweets?
I like Texas here. D-Mac. They're a 9.5-point favorite at home. Their playoff hopes are shot after getting smacked around by Georgia last week. But they still pride to play for. Arkansas is improved offensively since Petrino's taken over. However, LSU did a heck of a job in shutting that offense down last weekend. So that was nice to see as an LSU guy. But I think Texas goes. They win this game by 14 or so. I think that their defense is just too much for Arkansas. I think that Arch will have a decent enough game. The wild card in this game is Taylon Green. If he can get it going, Arkansas certainly does have the ability to beat a down Texas team right now. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think being at home, and I think with everything else going on, I think that Texas bounces back and gets a win here. I also like Texas' defense against the Arkansas offense. I like Colin Simmons to come out with a couple of sacks in this one, and I think they're going to go ahead and handle their business against the Piglets here. Who do you got here, D-Mac?
Yeah, Arkansas is sitting at 0-6 in SEC play. If you listen to Bobby Petrino at halftime, it was the refs that caused them to be down at halftime. So, I'm gonna roll with Arkansas in this one. I think that a Texas team that's got a lot of noise around them right now. Steve Sarkisian, is he checked out, ready to go to the NFL is my question. 7-5 definitely gets him out of Austin. So they're sitting at 7-3 right now. I don't know how Arkansas is going to do this, but they're going to clean up the turnover margin this week. They're minus 10 on the season, which puts them at 129th. Texas is pretty good at +8, but I think Arkansas wins the turnovers this week. Texas, Sweets, I know you said they have something to play for, but kind of similar to, an LSU team or a Florida team. When you're eliminated from playoffs, I mean, I guess you want to keep a recruiting class, but if they finish 9-3 and finish 13th, to me, that's no different than going 8-4 and finishing, outside of the top 25 because you're still not playing in the playoffs. So give me Arkansas in this one. I'm going to go 35-31. Arkansas pulls off a road win, gets their first SEC win of the season. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, so this is an old Southwest Conference rivalry that Arkansas, this is the team that they wanted to beat every year. This is their biggest rivalry. Um, I grew up around this, and I'm telling you, Arkansas will be up for this game, and they'll play well. The turnover margin is the thing that I scratch my head because Arkansas is -10, Texas is +8. But again, Arkansas has been in every game. You look at their, outside Notre Dame, but you look at the in-conference season. They're one-score games just about every game, and they could win. They could win. So you think, when were they going to win one? So I'm gonna roll with you on this one too. This is my upset of the week. I'm going Arkansas 31 to 23. I see Art struggling a little bit in this game, and I see Texas. This is a trap game for them, in my opinion. They've got A&M coming up, and while I said this is a huge game for Arkansas, it's not a huge game for Texas. And they're coming off the Georgia loss, where they're probably knocked out of the playoffs. Looking forward to A&M and playing them at home, wanting to get that victory. I see them coming into this game a little flat, and I think Arkansas will jump out on them and they'll play well. And if they just eliminate those turnovers, I see them pulling this game out. Like I said, give me Arkansas.
So that brings us to another SEC game. You've got Kentucky traveling to Nashville to play Vandy. Let me see here. Kevin, this one is you. Who do you like here?
Yeah, so Vandy's coming off a bye week. They played LSU coming off a bye week early in the season and looked really good offensively in that game. So I think we're going to see the same thing. Vandy averages over 440 yards on offense. Kentucky around 360. You got Diego Pavia, the quarterback of Vanderbilt. We all know him. He does a lot of magical things when he plays. Cutter Boley, the freshman from Kentucky, he's been a breath of fresh air to that offense. That offense was not very good at the beginning of the season, but he's lifted them. They still only get 363 yards a game. To me, the game boils down to one stat that I like for Vandy. Vandy's 53% on third down. That's where Pavia is really good. He's good at getting yards on first and second down, creating third and short, and that helps their time of possession. And then Kentucky gives up a 41.6% on third downs. So the fact that Kentucky's not very good on third downs defensively and Vanderbilt is good, I see that really giving Vanderbilt the time of possession in this game, and Pavia will get enough points. Pavia and Vandy still alive in the playoffs. They got a lot to play for. I didn't mention this for Kentucky. Kentucky's 5-5. A win gets them bowl eligible, and so no one would have predicted that for this team in the first of the season, especially after the first month. So they got a lot to play for. But I like Vandy at home. Give me Vandy 34, Kentucky 20. Sweet, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been on Vandy all year. Like what Pavia is doing, like what Clark Lee's doing there. They do have a ton to play for. They win this game and then beat Tennessee, and there's a really good possibility that Vandy makes the playoff. That being said, they know what's in front of them. They're going to go in, not overconfident. They're going to go in and handle their business. I like Vanderbilt 37, Kentucky 17. I just think it just shows everybody that Vandy's for real and they're ready. Who do you got here, DMAC?
Yeah, Diego Pavia, what a magical quarterback in the SEC, 2,500 passing yards, 613 rushing yards, 28 total touchdowns. But look at Kentucky, Cutter Boley, 3 consecutive weeks as SEC Player of the Week here. I think Vandy may overlook this game a little bit, looking forward to Tennessee. Yeah, I'm making a bold prediction in this one. Kentucky becomes bowl eligible this week. And I'm going to make another bold prediction. Vandy drops the next two, and Diego Pavia gets to finish his college career in Nashville, playing in the Music City Bowl. Give me Kentucky in a close game here. They're going to win this game 27-21. They're going to slow down Diego Pavia quite a bit in this one. Kentucky for the win. So that takes us to another payday game, but there may be some magic in this one. Coastal Carolina taking on South Carolina. Who do you like in this one, Sweets?
This is going to be a pretty good game, I think, because South Carolina has been woeful this season. They've underachieved big time. They're 3-7, I believe, is their record here. Nobody would have had that on their bingo card. Going into the season, a lot of people had high hopes for South Carolina. They were on the cusp of the playoffs last season, and weren't able to get in. That being said, I think that South Carolina, what's the line in this 23.5? I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. I like South Carolina to win the game. They just got too many Jimmies and Joes for Coastal. But I think Coastal's going to hang around and keep it competitive. Give me South Carolina 28-21. Don't be surprised if Coastal Carolina wins the game or is there at the very end. I just think that South Carolina's just that their talent should be too much for them. I'm looking at some of Coastal stats. Tad Hudson has 620 passing yards, 4 picks, 3 TDs. Their leading rusher, Javon Simpkins, has 536 yards. So they're not exactly an offensive juggernaut, but they're 6-4, which is better than 3-7. And they're going to give the Gamecocks all they want, I think. What are your thoughts on this one, DMAC?
Yeah, watching that game last week, huge first half for South Carolina against Texas A&M. They're up 30-3 at half, lose the game 31-30. Players, coaches, everybody at South Carolina basically gave up in that second half. Couldn't get anything going. Sellers was 15-30 for 246, 2 touchdowns and an interception, with a majority of those positives coming in the first half for Carolina. I think this is a team that's given up a little bit. I don't know if they've given up enough to lose this game to Coastal Carolina. I don't think there's any way they cover. You've still got a few bright spots on defense and in the special teams game for South Carolina. So I think they win. But I'm going to go 27-17, 10-point win at home for the Gamecocks. Them blowing that game against Texas A&M led James Franklin's deal being finalized up at Virginia Tech. I think there was still maybe some chatter of Shane Beamer going to VT, and now they don't even want him. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him next. Kevin, what do you think of this game?
Beamer came out and said recently, since the game Saturday, that they will be in the playoff talk next year. So let's just keep that in mind there at South Carolina. They've had the last 3 games, they've had 2 really tough losses. They had Bama at home and really had that game in hand and could have won that game, and they certainly should have beat A&M on the road this past weekend. I think they'll come out and they'll play and they'll win the game. Beamer's a solid coach. Again, he's got to answer to how he's lost those leads, though. I mean, that's not solid by no means. But I think South Carolina wins. They're good enough on defense, and Sellers, I think, will play well against Coastal Carolina. Give me South Carolina 27, Coastal 13.
So that takes us to the Tennessee-Florida game here, played in Gainesville. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Florida lost another one last week to Ole Miss. It was a 10-point game, but it was much closer than that. Florida played a heck of a game last week. DJ Lagway was reinserted as starter for them. So this is a game that, similar to that Kentucky Vandy game, worries me a little bit. Is Tennessee looking ahead to Vanderbilt in this one? Florida's -2 in the turnover margin. Tennessee's +4. So neither team. I mean, Florida's bad, but Tennessee's not very good there either. I'm going to go with the home team. I talked about Virginia Tech being a hostile environment. Going down to the Swamp in Gainesville's a hostile environment too, especially if some things go their way leading up to this game and they make a coaching announcement this week. Things are going to be rocking in the Swamp. So give me Florida in a close one. I like their defense. Let's go 24-21. Gators get a much needed win to improve to 4-7. Sweets, who do you like in this one?
I like Tennessee here. I think Tennessee's just a little too much offensively for Florida. Florida's got a good defense, but Tennessee's offense is pretty special. They're averaging 495 yards a game. Joey Aguilar leads the SEC in passing at 294 a game, and Chris Brazell has 873 yards receiving for the Vols to lead the team. The thing of note here for me, as I was just looking at this, is Tennessee hasn't won in the Swamp since 2003. So the last time they won there, DMAC, how old were you then?
I was 7.
Ooh, yeah, that's a long time. However, I think that Tennessee gets off the schneid, and I think they win this game. Give me Tennessee 31, Florida 17. I think Tennessee's offense comes together, plays well, and I just don't think Florida's offense can hold serve and score enough to beat them. So that's my pick. Who do you got, Kev?
Yeah, so Tennessee is kind of one of those teams that over Heupel's career at Tennessee, he's had good defenses, but this year they don't. And they've given up points. They've given up points to everyone. We talk about Tennessee scores a lot on everybody, but Tennessee gives up. If you're a good team, they give up 30 to you. And again, Florida's a good defensive team. So, and then lastly, I'll say this: Tennessee has had many years they're the better team, and they go to the Swamp and lose. So it's just the Swamp jinx in this rivalry game. I like Florida to get this game. They were competitive last week. They laid an egg in Kentucky, but they played really well at Ole Miss last week. They played well against Georgia. I think they're going to come out and play with energy, and their defense is going to play well. I don't like Tennessee's turnover situation in this game. Aguilera has turned the ball over recently. So I think that part will continue. I think he'll probably have 2 interceptions against this defense. So give me Florida in this one, 31-27. Aguilera will put up yards. Tennessee will score, and they will move the ball. I just think their defense is going to give up 30 again, and I think Florida's going to win at home.
Sweets, you read the cue cards really well that you were given to talk about Tennessee in that one.
Yeah, you kept the home happy. You kept the home piece happy. So we
happy wife, happy life. Happy
That's
wife,
right.
happy life. But I sincerely, without fear of Sandal coming through the door at me like it did last week, I think Tennessee handles this one. I just think that 22 years is a long time. I think Tennessee's the better team. I think it'll show Saturday.
I hope you're right. I would love for that Vandy game at Tennessee to mean something. And if Tennessee is, with 3 losses, that would be more for Vandy if they could pull that game off. So I hope you're right.
This should be a good one.
Yeah.
Should be a good
So-
one.
So that brings us
That'll
to our last. Oh, sorry, Sweets.
No, you had it. I was just leading in. That takes us to Western Kentucky at LSU. Go ahead and get it started, DMAC.
Yeah, so senior night for the LSU Tigers in Death Valley. Will Garrett Nussmeier play in this one in his last home game, suited up in the purple and gold? I think that's going to be a big question that we should have more clarity on tomorrow. Yeah, this is a game. LSU's got a 94.9% chance to win. They're playing an 8-2 Western Kentucky team who is second in the Conference USA. So pretty impressive year for Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers this year. And their mascot's what? Like a blob of just stuff, right? I don't even know what that technically is.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, LSU's offense is running for 106 yards a game, passing for 240. They're scoring a little over 23 points a game. The Western Kentucky offense is running for about 140, throwing for nearly 300, and scoring 31 points a game. Where I think this game favors LSU heavily is this Western Kentucky defense is giving up 175 yards a game on the ground and 225 through the air for nearly 400 yards a game. However, their scoring defense is pretty good, only giving up 23 points a game. LSU is +6 in the turnover margin, which puts them 22nd in the nation. Western Kentucky is -4 in that category. I think LSU wins this game, to improve to 7-4. I think the line is 23.5 last time I checked. I don't know if LSU is going to cover the line, but I think like a 31-10 game is realistic, 31-13. Somewhere along those lines, LSU gets a win. Seniors get to end the home stretch with a win. Kevin, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I like a lot of the points you make in this game, and I do think it'll be probably a little bit inside that spread. I really look for Van Buren to play in this game and see if he continues to play and advance and get better. I know when you watch him, you're not like wowed by every play that he makes, but he made key plays last week in that Arkansas game, and he doesn't turn the ball over. He hit a pass to Barium Brown on a post route that was really key in a drive. And then the 30-yard run he had when he stepped up. Those were, to me, two very instinctive plays where he needed it. So I'm looking forward to watching him play in this game to see the progression that he makes. We know LSU will be good on defense, and they'll make it very tough on Western to score. I'm going similar to what you said. I'm going to go LSU 30, Western 10 in this game. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the LSU is just too much across the board for Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky's got their own starting redshirt freshman quarterback. Their starter Maverick McIvor, say that fast 3 times, is out with a left shoulder injury. Last week, his backup Rodney Tisdale Jr. came in and threw for 371 and 3 touchdowns. So he came in and had a heck of a game. That being said, he wasn't facing LSU's defense. I think LSU is going to win the game. I think that Van Buren is going to play, and he's going to look good and be serviceable. Give me LSU. I'm going to go crazy. Give me LSU 42, Western Kentucky 17. So not only do we cover, but we actually score over 40 points. So, yeah, there it is.
That would be a sight if that happened. But I hope it does.
Does Nuss get playing time on senior night? That's the question in my mind.
I think you need to play the kid. Is he the best quarterback option right now? I don't think so, but it's senior night. You're going to win this game. I almost would not want to play Van Buren to save the red shirt here, because I think if he sits out the next two games, he's still good to red shirt, right?
Yes, he is. And personally, I would like to see that happen. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I think you could see, I'd like to see Van Buren's progression. I think you could see Nutt start this game and play the whole game. But I don't know about Oklahoma. Sweet, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I had read something where Frank they had asked because Hurley's not with the team now, and they talked about Jawan Johnson being coming in as a emergency quarterback, and I think this is a game where you out of respect for the kid and his family, I think that you try to keep him on the sideline for it. I don't think you blow a red shirt in a game in the season that that you're just playing out the string. So I hope that's what happens too, and I hope if Nussmeier does play, that he comes out and plays well and has a good home ending to his career at LSU. He didn't live up to the expectations that we all had for him. Some of that could be the coaching. A lot of it's on him. He just didn't do what he needed to do to get better. But we're past that now. I hope if he does play, he's serviceable and is injury free, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hey, we may get to see a little Emil Picarella, local Baton Rouge kid at QB3 right now. It would be nice to see a Baton Rouge kid do something positive at quarterback this year. Ricky Collins up at Syracuse has had a tough go. Eli Holstein at Pitt isn't even playing anymore. So I'd love to see a Baton Rouge kid do something positive this week, even if it's just going 1-for-1. Let him throw one screen pass to a tight end for a loss for 4. Just complete a pass.
He may be the kid. That may be him. He may be, he may come in and get us a win. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be sweet. So that brings us to, we're done with games. Let's talk a little coaching news. Ole Miss has supposedly given Lane Kiffin I guess, deadline / ultimatum on what he's going to do. It's been confirmed that his family was in Gainesville Sunday, checking out the area. Family was in Baton Rouge yesterday, checking out BR. What are your thoughts on this, Sweets? Do you think Lane Kiffin stays put, or is he Gator bound, or is he Tiger bound?
His predicting where he's going to be next year is like predicting, his next play call. You have no idea what's coming. What are you going to do as an administration at Ole Miss? I mean, are you gonna, force I guess you're going to force his hand and make him make a decision. And if he does come back, what's that relationship going to be like? I think there's too much happened for him to go back personally. Where he ends up, I don't know. A lot of people, with his wife and the Florida connections and the father-in-law and everything. And then you turn around and LSU, he's, Weeks is dating his daughter and this and that. I have no idea. But I don't think he ends up at Ole Miss next year. I think he's either in Baton Rouge or Florida. What are your thoughts on it, Kev?
Yeah, look, he's had a great relationship with Keith Carter, and Keith Carter's done a great job with Ole Miss. They were at the forefront of NIL. They raise money, and they do a good job with what they do on the transfer portal and getting players. That being said, if you'd again asked me a month ago, I would have said I think he stays at Ole Miss because he can be a legend there. But Lane Kiffin wants to be at a big program. I think it's as simple as that. I think he looks at two of his peers that he coached with, early in his career, and even back at Bama, he coached with Sark, and Sark's at Texas. with a lot of advantage that Texas has. You know, when Lane was at Bama, on the defensive side of the ball, you had Kirby. Kirby's at Georgia. So both of his, peers that he coached against, that deep down, he believes he's as good or better than those guys. And they're big time programs with, chances to win a national championship most every year. So I think Lane wants to be at that same type of program where he can be talked about, as a top coach in college football. And I think he wants to. I think he thinks if he wins the championship, his name will be talked about in that top group. So I think Florida or LSU is where he ends up. Florida has the family ties. LSU has got all the things that Florida has and only has one school in the state. LSU to me also has better facilities. I think if you pointed a gun and said, where do I think he's going to go? I think he's going to end up at LSU. I don't think he's made his mind up though, but I think that's where he's going to end up. We'll see over the next couple of days, and I could be wrong.
What are your thoughts, D-Mac?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. If you would have asked me 7 days ago, I think you and I talked, Kevin, I said, why leave Ole Miss? But now that you're given this deadline of, hey, we need your answer by this date before the Egg Bowl, I think it throws a major wrench into things. I don't know if they have a line out just yet on the Egg Bowl game since both teams are on bye, but I'd put a little money on Mississippi State money line on that one and see what happens. If Lane Kiffin is forced to make this ultimatum decision and chooses LSU or Florida, and they don't want him to coach the rest of the way out, I think you lose those players at Ole Miss a little bit, especially the offensive guys. And I do think if Lane was given the choice to stay and coach, even after accepting another job, he would want to stay. But I don't think Ole Miss is going to want to do that. So I think Lane Kiffin ends up at LSU, though. Sorry, coughing a little bit. All right, I'm back. I can talk again. Yeah, I would lean Lane Kiffin to LSU. You don't have much. You have no competition in state as to where you've got Miami and Florida State and even Georgia heavy in Florida for recruiting. But he saw an old coach that he used to coach with, Ed Ogeron, win a national championship at LSU. He's got to be sitting back and thinking, man, could I win 8 or 10 at LSU if I went there? After seeing Ed O win one. So I think that LSU would be the best fit for him. Now, still a lot of things up in the air, but some of the numbers we've seen on message boards and tossed around online. I don't know if there's a bad decision that he can make, honestly, with the numbers being thrown around. But my lean right now would be for him to be at LSU, and as much as I like that, it's almost the opposite of what I've said LSU needs to do, because you're going to be spending a lot of money. And if for some reason it doesn't work out, you thought a $54 million liability on the taxpayers was a lot. Wait till that number is almost double. So, there's definitely still risk there, even though I do think he's the hottest commodity and would have a ton of success. If for some reason that doesn't translate, we could mark our calendar for November 18th, 2027, and we may be having this same conversation about another coaching change at LSU, because I believe as high as the expectations were with Brian Kelly, if you bring Lane Kiffin in, those expectations are even higher in year one, to where in 2 or 3 years, it's not playoff or bust, it's national championship or bust. And the same thing at Florida for him. I think, you're almost going to have unrealistic expectations set for these programs. So, which I don't think he stays at Ole Miss. So he knows what he's walking into at either one of those programs. Before we wrap up, any other thoughts on any potential coaching changes or any final thoughts before we wrap up, Sweets?
I'm just going to throw it out there for you guys. If it isn't Kiffin, who is it? We've all talked offline about this, and who we prefer, who we like, who we don't like. But who do you think? Not who do you prefer? Who do you think? If it's not Kiffin, who is it? Who do you think it is, Kev?
I think it's Dillingham if it's not Kiffin. I want Freeman, but I think it's Dillingham if it's not Kiffin. D-Mac, what's your thought?
So I want Dillingham if it's not Kiffin, but I need to go find my Darth Vader mask because it's going to be Eli Drinkwitz.
Oh,
and no, nobody likes that. And I can't say I agree or disagree there. I'm kind of neutral. He'd be outside of my top 6 or 7 outside of the home run hires. But man, the more I hear, I think if he doesn't go to Penn State, whoever doesn't get Lane Kiffin out of LSU and Florida likely ends up with him if it's not Penn State. What do you think, Sweets?
No. I mean, we've all heard the rumors and heard people talk and, know people and this, that, and the other. I wouldn't like the hire personally. That stat about him not beating one SEC team with a record better than 500 in his entire career at Mizzou kind of speaks volumes to me. I mean, you'd think you would stumble into beating a team once in that period of time, but he hasn't beaten one. That's a little scary, and we had talked about Mizzou's scheduling and this, that, and the other, but I want a coach that people are afraid of. Nobody's afraid of Drinkwitz. I mean, people fear Lane, people fear different coaches. Nobody, Drinkwitz doesn't, oh God, we're facing a Drinkwitz coach team. We need to batten down the hatches. That nobody thinks like that. I don't know. I don't know. Dillingham wouldn't be a bad hire to me. He's young, energetic. That's if we don't get a Kiffin or Freeman would be a great coach. I want somebody a go-getter, an energetic guy who can recruit. Who the players will run through a wall for him, and who can also bring a staff with him. Not only bring a staff, but maintain it. Like we talked about before. You get a good OC. We talked about Drinkwitz with his OC. Comes to LSU next year, has a great season. That OC is probably out the door for a head coaching job because there aren't a lot of those guys that stick. What was that?
Maybe at Missouri, he might be the one that gets that job.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's it'll be interesting, but I'd be good with the Dillingham, certainly.
Kevin, any last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, so each week we see eliminations, and last week we saw some eliminations and some teams put on the fence. So I'm gonna, I picked Oklahoma over Missouri and I picked Oregon over USC. So my last thought is one of those teams that I picked is going to lose this weekend. If it's Missouri upsetting Oklahoma, that's going to knock Oklahoma out, and I think whoever loses that Oregon USC game is in a tight spot. So I think you're going to see some elimination factors in those two games. So be two of the best games to watch. But I'm going to be wrong on one of those.
Awesome. Well, another good episode of Southern Sports Gumbo. We will be back Thursday to talk a little high school playoff, final picks for week 13. And maybe break some head coaching news Thursday night for some teams. So thanks for joining with us this week. Remember to like, follow, share, tell a friend about us, and we'll talk to you guys soon.